It is game time for a Wednesday night. Matt Weiner, the Hall of Famer, Isaiah Thomas, and our rookie right here, the five-time NBA champion, Derek Fisher. And before we go any further, Zeke, check out the suit here. This is like cobalt blue, the European tailoring. I mean, he brought it.
And you can tell it's tailored because it's just like skin tight.
Looking good.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for the embarrassing introduction.
No, that's what we do around here.
Very much.
After 18
the good-looking introduction.
18 seasons as a player, mostly with the Lakers. Derek, of course, transitioned right to coaching. Spent a little over a season and a half working under Phil Jackson with the New York Knicks. What did you learn about coaching that you didn't know from all that observation over nearly 2 decades?
I learned everything. I mean, I literally stepped off of the court as a player into a coach, and I learned how hard it is to win and how much you have to appreciate the work that goes into winning, and how everybody in the organization has to really be on the same page and with the same vision.
There's the resume, #1 all-time in playoff victories as a player, which is amazing. 5 championships along the way, 18 seasons, and early on in the coaching career. What are you doing with yourself now? We saw you at the NCAA tournament. Your Little Rock Trojans scored a first-round win over Purdue. We saw you hanging around there.
Big upset. Happy for the program, happy for the city of Little Rock and University. Lost our coach to a great opportunity for him, Chris Beard and UNLV. Wes Flanagan now the new coach. But right now I'm enjoying a lot of time with my kids, which I've literally never had before. And so I'm on daddy duty right now.
That's a good thing. Not a bad thing at all. Take us inside the Knicks here a little bit. Obviously, this is a team as scrutinized as any in the NBA because of where they play, because of the history of the organization. There are some pieces there, notably Kristaps Porzingis is a young piece. Carmelo Anthony at a very different stage of his career. But moving forward, how well positioned are the Knicks roster-wise to get something done this summer and become a contender again?
Well, roster-wise, I think there are really good players there. I don't think the roster was complete when the season started.
Right.
It's not complete now. So over the summer, I think the first steps after the season are to decide who are we as an organization? What style of basketball do we want to play? How are we going to convince players to come here and play for us? And to do that, you have to have a vision for where you're going. And so I think that's the first thing that the Knicks have to establish.
You may not know the answer to this, but at the beginning of the year, we were asked for predictions. One of my predictions was that Carmelo Anthony would finish the year with another team, because to me, the organization and the player are really not a match right now in terms of their development. Carmelo's at a place where if he wants to go ring hunting somewhere, he'd probably be better served doing it elsewhere. The Knicks, with Porzingis as the centerpiece, are in a position to develop moving forward. Do you see a scenario where he winds up somewhere else?
Well, from what I learned in terms of coaching and working with Carmelo is that, of course, he wants to win.
Sure.
But he's also willing to work with younger players and allow the development and rebuilding process to happen. He was happy with Kristaps Porzingis' development. I think we were overall as a team. And in reality, 44 games into the season, we were 22-22. One game basically out of the playoffs in the East. And Carmelo's injured. We had a few other players with some injuries. We had a 1-9 stretch. I'm standing here now, and things changed. That happens. But I do think that it's possible to still compete in the Eastern Conference and have a chance to win a championship once you're in the playoffs with some of the pieces they have. But you have to decide on who you are as an organization and then how we want to play basketball as a team that is going to allow us to develop players, not just now, but going forward into the future.
Porzingis was an amazing story, booed on draft night, excuse me, as you know, and then shows off all this ability at 7'3". What is the ceiling for him?
There is no ceiling for people 7 feet tall, actually. This building wouldn't work.
There's a lot of ducking, actually, is what there is, yeah.
No, he's an unbelievable player. I remember being a part of the booing process when he was named as the 4th pick in the draft. But the #1 thing about Kristaps is not his height or his talent, but his mindset. And when I say that, I'm speaking specifically about his work ethic and his desire and willingness to work. Very few extremely talented players, at least in recent years that I've seen, are happy to go to work every day. He loves being in the gym. He loves working hard. Isaiah got a chance to see it when he would be there in the building. And to me, that's the best part about him, and that's why he'll continue to develop as a great player potentially.
Seems to have an amazingly level head as well, considering everything that has happened to him in the last year or so. Phil Jackson, you knew him well as your head coach, obviously, with the LA Lakers. and as a boss with the New York Knicks. How has he settled into that role? What do you think his strengths are in that position?
Well, I think a lot of people forget because of Phil's history in basketball, one of the greatest basketball minds, coaches we've ever seen. There's the assumption maybe that he knows exactly what to do in every situation. And he's also, and still was and is learning as an executive, as the president of an organization, which is completely different than coaching. So without assuming anything, my assumption is still that there was a lot of learning that he had to do and that we all were doing in terms of working together as a group. And, you know, Isaiah as a president of an organization and having been a coach and general manager before, there's a lot to learn. I think Phil is still settling in, but it's organization-wide are still settling in terms of, I think, who the Knicks are in their DNA.
Well, I could put this to both of you, really. Well, what are the things that fans, that maybe media don't appreciate about those jobs that you don't see behind the scenes happening?
I'll defer to the expert first.
It really is 365, 24/7 in terms of the amount of work and time that you put into it. Philosophically, trying to make sure that everyone is on the same page in selling your vision every single day from a president's standpoint, from a coaching standpoint, which is extremely difficult. Taking 12 players, putting them in a locker room, different races, different religions, different cultural backgrounds, and trying to get everybody to have the same belief in terms of winning. What you have to do, you know, just in terms of, you know, making sure that you sell your message every day. And then you got to get out on the court and implement a game plan. And I thought what you were doing, particularly with Porzingis, is like from draft night to where he's at now, psychologically, mentally, the way you were able to keep him just moving, keeping him growing, not putting him out there too soon, looking at his minutes earlier, and just growing him and developing him as a player. He'll look back years from now and appreciate the coaching job that you did with him from a foundation standpoint, because you know and I know going into any other situation, if that coach doesn't handle that situation correctly the way you handle it with him, it could have been a disaster in New York, and you did a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I agree with definitely everything that Isaiah is saying about the organization and how difficult and challenging it is to have everybody, and I mean everybody from top to bottom, in the facility on the same page and making sure that that vision is established. But that's why the special teams and the teams that are successful are able to do that. And, you know, the Knicks are still a little bit of a distance from that, but we'll see how it goes going forward.
We can't get everybody in this room to agree on anything. Yeah. I can only imagine an entire organization. The triangle. There's so much discussion about the triangle, probably more discussion than there should be about the triangle, because as has been pointed out a million times, if you have great players, virtually any offense will ultimately work. How compatible is the offense with today's players, the guys coming into the league right now?
Well, I think the offense itself is compatible with just good basketball, but players are being taught how to play basketball in a different way.
Right.
Some would say they're not being taught how to play basketball very much. And so in order to be successful, I think, in running anything that requires organization, discipline, fundamentals, very specific skill sets, that takes extra time. And that time isn't there maybe as much as it used to be. Training camp has been cut shorter.
Right.
Practices are shorter. All-Star break is longer. More games in terms of the schedule, the intensity of the schedule, in terms of, you know, all teams and the traveling. So I think it's more difficult to implement a system that requires so much terminology-wise, specific skill set-wise. And it's not impossible to do it, but I think it makes it more challenging for a team to develop during the course of a season compared to maybe some other teams that aren't asking that of their players.
And from everything I've heard from players who have played in it, it requires a lot of reading and reacting, and that means reps. That means you have to have gone through it over and over and over.
For sure. It requires many repetitions, many practices, many drills, but very specific drills, very specific skills and fundamentals required in the system. You aren't being taught that anywhere else in the world that you've played basketball. And so we're the only team essentially trying to get our players to play a certain style that a lot of them just aren't used to. You have to give the players all of the credit in terms of trying to make it work, even though at times it was difficult, it was challenging, And then they had to do that on the biggest stage in the world in New York City,
right.
Where everybody's scrutinizing and questioning every decision you make. And I thought the guys fought as hard as they could this year for us to be competitive for most of the season. And then, like I said, unfortunately, we had a tough stretch there through 10 games, and things changed. But I'm still proud of the effort that we put into that point.
Well, good to have you with us here tonight and tomorrow night on TNT as well, which will be fun. Derek, we'll talk hoops in the other 29 teams, not just the Knicks, as we continue throughout the night here on Game Time. Look at Clyde. Is that tonight? Oh, that's tremendous.
Now, do you miss that, D?
I do.
I mean, Coach, do you? Come on.
I miss Clyde. I can
pretty
honestly
great.
say.
No, we're not talking about Clyde.
No, not just Clyde.
We're talking about the outfit.
We're talking about.
I mean,
well, Clyde is synonymous with the outfit. They are one.
They're inseparable. That's true.
If you miss Clyde, you miss the outfit.
Can you imagine Clyde in like just a regular suit and tie? He would walk in, right, and you'd be like, That's not Walt Frazier. That's not Clyde Frazier.
That's a disguise for him.
Yeah, it's like he's got to have the look, you know, and he's the only one that I've seen that can really pull it off.
That is spectacular.
Yeah. We should have a Clyde Frazier night where we all come in looking and dressed like that.
Where would I find that? I have no idea.
I'm not trying.